Welcome back, welcome in to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. That's right, it's great to be with you once again. I am your host, Holler at your boy, Blair Parks, and you are back with us for the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, where I discuss and present and celebrate all things college football, but with an emphasis on the black and gold squads of the Missouri Tigers and the Iowa Hawkeyes. It's great to be back with you. I'm coming to you live again from the Hawk Cave, and week 6 is upon us. Single tier when I say that, because that only shows that we are halfway through basically this college football season already, and wow, what a fun ride it has been. Week 6 brings us some huge matchups, and one of those, the biggest matchup of the weekend, includes one of our beloved black and gold squads, our Iowa Hawkeyes, and I will definitely preview that game more later this episode. Stay tuned. But wow, it has been great football up to this point. The parity continues, and we are right now in the midst of our 4-course meal. Week 4 brought us our appetizer. Week 5 last week brought us the soup and salad. And now week 6, we have reached the culinary climax. It is time for our main course. And so we're going to tee up your meat and potatoes, your fish and chips, your pasta and bread, your mixed vegetables and tofu for all you vegans. It is time to dine. Weeks 4 through 7, if you recall from earlier episodes, and I mentioned that those weeks were going to provide us finally the separation and clarity that we needed to really see who are the legitimate playoff contenders, those who might be just slightly on the outside looking in, maybe needing a little bit of help to summit the playoff mountain, and everybody else. And wow, we are ready. It is time to feast. I am hungry. I know you're hungry. And before I go much further, I'd like to mention, thank you for your viewership, for putting up with me, for watching me. I know I'm no George Clooney. I never mentioned to be, but I hope you're still entertained, and I hope you're finding this blog very informative yet entertaining. It's just great to be here with you and to share my passion of college football with your passions for college football. But it is great, and please, if you could, help spread the word. Let's get the word out to all black and gold fans from coast to coast, and all college football fans in between. Please like, share, comment, smash the subscribe button. I'd appreciate it. So, I've got 4 topics to discuss this week. First of all, I do want to go through some key matchups for week 6, the main course. Then I like to unveil my updated Power 5 conference rankings. Where is your conference at? Are they leading the pack? Are they at the end? Are they somewhere in between? Are they clearly out in front? Are they lost in the wilderness? So stay tuned for that segment. Then my third topic will be my initial analysis, commentary on the games this weekend involving Missouri and Iowa. And then everybody's favorite segment will be Week 6 picks. And this week I'm blessed to have another guest picker with me, my friend Caleb. I also have my former co-host picks, Charlie. I got those from both of them in time. So we'll have another 3 men enter Thunderdome, 1 man will leave. And before I get into my first topic, as I always do upon further review, throwing the red flag, I did make a gaffe earlier this week during our Week 5 review show. So once again, as I do when I make a mistake, I do humble myself. And just to remind you, I don't do any retakes. I don't do any editing. I just turn the camera on, do what I do, jiggle and wiggle, stop and send it. That's how I roll. But when I do make a gaffe, I do humble myself in front of you, the Black and Gold family. I did say during my overall recap of the Iowa defense, how they performed at Maryland last Friday. At the end, stats-wise, I did say that they, at this point, were the third best scoring defense in the nation. That is actually incorrect. They are the second best scoring defense in the nation. So that's actually improvement with my mistake. They trail only Georgia. And Georgia, if you haven't watched the Georgia defense yet, folks, that is basically the equivalent of an NFL front seven. I mean, these guys are freaks, five-star athletes, stud. It is impressive how good their defense is. Second is Iowa. And just behind them at number 3 is a team named Penn State, who Iowa matches up with this weekend in a couple days. I'm so excited for this monumental matchup. So Penn State is right behind Iowa. So 2 of the 3 best scoring defenses meet up this weekend in a good old-fashioned slugfest in Iowa City. So that was my gaffe. My apologies. I hope you can forgive me. And before I forget, I want to give a quick shout out. And I always try to give shout outs whenever I can. But this one, because if you've watched previous episodes, I am a big fan of the non-revenue sports. And Iowa last year had a banner year for non-rev sports. The wrestling team won the NCAA championship, another banner hanging in Carver Hawkeye Arena, another title for the wrestling squad. The track and field team, I believe, took home the Big Ten Outdoor Championship. The field hockey, the women's field hockey, went to the Final Four, and that is where my shout out comes to you. Right now, currently, the Iowa women's field hockey is ranked number 1 in the nation. Well done, ladies. You make us proud. Keep it up. And also, too, the basketball squads, both men's and women's, had banner years last year, too, for Iowa. So keep it up, ladies. I'll be watching. So without further ado, let's get right into my first topic today, the key matchups to watch during Week 6. Hopefully your main course treats you well. Now, for some of you, through the first 2 courses, your teams maybe left you very humble. Maybe they left you very satisfied. Some of you, maybe a sour taste in your mouth. So before Week 6 finally arrives on us, make sure that you refill your prescriptions for your blood pressure, you get your blood thinners, your beta blockers, and make sure you are fully stocked with the Tums. So you might need them, some of the fan bases, after the main course Week 6. So my first key matchup I want to discuss is number 13. Arkansas travels to number 17, Ole Miss. Now, both of these squads are coming off poor showings last week. And both of these squads, these were statement-type games that they faced Week 5 and both miserably failed. Arkansas traveled to number 2 Georgia and was shut out 37-0. And Ole Miss, the new Rebel Alliance, led by Han Kiffin, could not travel to Tuscaloosa and take out Death Star 3. They lost at Alabama to the score of 42-21. But worse than that, it was 28-0 at the half. So these 2 teams are definitely looking for big bounce back performances. And it's going to be entertaining to see how they respond. I mean, Arkansas definitely was one of those teams that basically captured our hearts with the early season success. Hopefully they can come back. And how really good is Ole Miss? Their offense is absolutely vaunted, but I look at their schedule. I mean, they're ranked number 17, but they haven't really beaten anyone. I mean, their schedule includes wins over Louisville. Yes, an ACC Power 5 opponent, but ACC, enough said after this season. Also, they've beaten FCS Austin Peay, the Governors, and over victory over Tulane and that blowout loss at Alabama. So if Ole Miss loses this game, I highly expect them to drop out of the rankings. If you watched early this week, the Week 5 review, I am sick and tired of the rankings being a beauty contest. Ole Miss, maybe even right now, probably has no business being ranked right now, but if they lose, I absolutely expect them to drop out, and they should. So we'll see. And this is a huge game also for the SEC West race. Whoever loses this race has 2 conference losses within the division. So the loser is out of the SEC West race and also completely out of playoff contention. So big game down there in Oxford. And this one may or may not have made our pick segment. You'll have to stay tuned. Next matchup, number 2 Georgia, who I actually, in my team power rankings I unveiled earlier this week, I actually have Georgia as the best team in the country. I think they are. But number 2 Georgia travels to number 18 Auburn. And the questions I ask myself is, can Georgia continue to dominate SEC opponents as they have so far? I mean, they're coming off back-to-back shutouts of 2 SEC conference opponents. One at Vanderbilt, which, yes, Vanderbilt is in the 14 spot of the 14 teams in the SEC, but shutting them out on the road and then shutting out the aforementioned Arkansas Razorbacks, a highly ranked team at the time, to the tune of 99-0, that's impressive. Can they continue this in a hostile environment? Auburn's coming off of a big win last week at LSU, which was their first win at Death Valley since 1999. So they're going to party like it's 1999. So big game in the SEC West. And this is another one of these rankings that I don't really quite understand. Auburn, they do have that victory over LSU, but their schedule as well. Just because the SEC is the best conference, so obviously Cat's fully out of the bag, that is my number 1 conference power ranked team that I'll unveil here later this show. But just because you are the best conference doesn't mean you have to have X amount of teams ranked to meet your quota. Auburn doesn't really have a good win over anybody. I mean, their schedule, let me look at this. I am pretty sure I know. So they opened up the season with Akron, one of the worst Division I school programs in the nation. Then played FCS Alabama State. Then they did travel on the road, a very good showing at Penn State. They did lose by 8. It was a tough game, a good showing, but after that loss, they only dropped 1 spot in the rankings. I don't care if it's a moral victory. A loss is a loss. If you lose a game, bare bones minimum, you should be dropping at least 2 to 3 spots. And I don't care who you play, whether it's number 1, somebody who's unranked, at home, on the road, it doesn't matter. A loss is a loss. And then Georgia State they beat, but if you recall, they did a 98-yard scoring drive with 3 minutes left to avoid the upset at home against Georgia State, a non-Power 5 opponent. And then last week's win at LSU is impressive. But if they get boat raced by Georgia, which by boat racing, if it's 3 touchdowns or more, 21 points or more, it's at home, Auburn should absolutely drop from the rankings as well. I do not agree with this. The beauty pageant that has to continue in the SEC. And sorry, I am calling you out SEC by name because the majority of people out there would agree with my assessment unless you want to be an SEC homer. And if that's your prerogative, that's your prerogative. But just saying, it's the truth and it's right in front of you. It's up to you if you want to accept it or not. So big game there with Georgia and Auburn. Next is number 14 Notre Dame travels to Virginia Tech. Comes down to, can Notre Dame pick themselves up off the mat following last week's loss at home to a top 10 ranked Cincinnati squad? I mean, Cincinnati is absolutely a good team, but how does Notre Dame come back for that? You're still Notre Dame, and you lost at home to a non-Power 5 school. Granted, a school that will be Power 5 soon when they officially transition to competition to play in the Big 12. And how about that? How good does the Big 12 look right now? You're adding within a year or two a number 5 Cincinnati and number 10 BYU. Both teams unranked in the AP poll. How good does this look for the Big 12? What great additions that they're adding right now. But Virginia Tech, can they pull an upset? They are coming off of a bye. They had a week to rest up, get healthy, watch film. Can they pull the upset in Blacksburg? Stay tuned and see. And also, that's huge more too for Notre Dame, because based on the schedule they have left, they have a lot of layups potentially. And if they were to pick up one more loss, I absolutely believe that their playoff bubble will burst as well. Next big matchup, this year's edition of the Red River rivalry game. Number 6 Oklahoma faces off against number 21 Texas in the Cotton Bowl at Dallas. All eyes of the Big 12 will be on this matchup. Now, will the real Oklahoma offense please stand up? Please stand up. Please stand up. I've been saying that for weeks. Where is this vaunted Lincoln Riley offense? Why are they struggling? Based on my observations, this is their offensive line. Their offensive line is horrible. It is absolutely primordial ooze. Just like the Clemson offensive line, Spencer Rattler has been turning the ball over again, as he did last season at inopportune times. But most of the time, he's running for his life, people. If you watch the game Saturday, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And this Texas defense is not a world beater defense. But that Oklahoma O-line cannot stand up against anybody. So can first-year Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian earn instant validation for his hiring at Texas? I was skeptical of this hire. I thought this was Tom Herman 2.0, but if he opens up his first year with a victory in this rivalry over Oklahoma, which then puts Texas probably the front runner in the Big 12, instant gratification, and he will be forever etched in the annals of Texas football history. The matchup to watch in this game, we have two potential studs. One of them is absolutely a Heisman finalist. The other is looking to join that short list. It's the Texas running back Bijan Robinson and quarterback for Oklahoma, Spencer Rattler. Will it simply be a scoring fest? I mean, it could end up being whoever has the ball last could ultimately win, or does defense win the day? What defense steps up? Who is going to make enough stops? Intriguing game with that. That's huge playoff ramifications as well in that game. Next game I want to mention, number 9, Michigan travels to Nebraska for a primetime game in Lincoln. Can Nebraska finally break through against a ranked opponent? The last 3 weeks, Nebraska has shown new life, a little bit of a revival. It has ended up with one win. Last week, they absolutely beat the asses of Northwestern 56-7. But the 2 weeks prior to that, a heartbreaking loss at ranked Michigan State and at Oklahoma by 7 points. So this Nebraska squad is showing signs of life. Maybe they've turned the corner. This is a huge opportunity for them, primetime game, to show the country that. And can Michigan continue this very out of nowhere undefeated season? I mean, they're looking very good. They're playing clean. I think they have yet to turn the ball over, which is impressive through 5 games. Can they continue this undefeated success so far? We'll have to wait and see what Saturday brings. So it comes down to 2 coaches that entered the year on the hot seat. It might come down this game. Will it be Scott Frost doing Frost things, or the Khakis, Jim Harbaugh, doing what Jim Harbaugh does? High drama, must-see TV, this matchup. Next game, LSU, following the loss at home against Auburn, travels to undefeated Kentucky. I love this Kentucky squad. I'm high on them. They made their appearance earlier this week on my team power rankings. Can Kentucky sustain and continue this success? I mean, they just beat Florida at home last week, which was the first time defeating him at home since 1986. Can they continue this success? Or are they on a collision course with Georgia as undefeateds? It definitely is looking like it's going to happen. With a loss, LSU is going to drop then to 3-3, which who saw that coming? And if that's the case, my guy, Coach O, go Tigers. That seat is only going to get super hot. He's already on the hot seat entering the season, more or less because of off-field issues. Remember, this man he's actually 2 years. 2 years less, under 2 years. The national title game was in January of 2020. So he is less than 2 years removed from winning a national title. And here he finds himself on the coaching hot seat, especially if they lose Saturday at Kentucky. I mean, wow, it's hard to think of that this is what we've come to. But college football is a business, and it's run by what have you done for me lately? So we'll see. But the main issue with LSU is they're only averaging 70 yards per game rushing. Think about that. This is LSU. And that's also playing two weak opponents. I think they played a Central Michigan in there. It's not just been conference teams that they've played at this point. Let's see. Let me see if I can find them. I need to know. Because when I saw this stat, it blew my mind. 70 points a game rushing. That is just insane. Yes, here's their schedule. LSU to this point, UCLA, which that's a legit opponent. That was a loss out in Pasadena. McNeese State out of the FCS, and Central Michigan. And you're only averaging 70 yards a game on the ground. What is wrong? That is too much for the young quarterback, even though he is talented, Max Johnson, to shoulder. That is too much pressure and responsibility. That's the main problem with LSU, not Coach O. I mean, I'm pulling for him, but it's going to be tough, I think, for him to survive the season when they still have yet to play Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Arkansas. There's a good majority of those games are going to be losses for this squad. So we'll have to wait and see what plays out. Next one, number one, Alabama travels to Texas A&M. This one has absolutely lost some hype. If you recall from episode 3, earlier this season, the predictions episode, I did tab this as this was going to be the conference game of the year in the SEC. Absolutely not even scratching the surface of that after back-to-back losses by Texas A&M to Arkansas and last week at home to Mississippi State. Alabama should absolutely roll in this game, roll tide. But I'm calling this the show me the money game because we have two of the highest paid coaches in our sport on display. Actually will be number 1 and number 2 because January 1st of 2022, Jimbo Fisher's new raise goes into effect. Going to be making $9 million a year. So even in a loss, there is definitely a victory. Cha-ching, 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 money, 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 money. I'm going to talk a lot more about this game during the Week 6 review next week because I definitely expect 3 losses in a row by Texas A&M, and it's going to be time for me to maybe sound off and give a little bit of shameage to Coach Jimbo Fisher and the AD, provost, president, everybody at Texas A&M. So, and the key spotlight game. I mean, this is monumental, and I'm going to talk more about it later, but it's number 4 Penn State at number 3 Iowa. What a game for our Hawkeyes. And when I say monumental, I'm also saying historic. As you know, I am a student of history, and when you look back on the annals of the Big Ten, primarily 2 teams have dominated our conference. It's been Ohio State, especially recently, and Michigan. So to give you an idea of how few and far between we see matchups of this caliber that don't involve Michigan or Ohio State, just listen to this. This is the first time during the regular season, I say regular season, because 2015, the Big Ten title game between number 4 Iowa, number 5 Michigan State, which unfortunately our Hawkeyes ended up on the wrong end of the scoreboard that night, still leaves a sour taste in my mouth. I need to get a little drink of water just to wash that down. That was not a regular season game. But this is the first time that the Big Ten has a top 5 matchup in the regular season between two teams. The first time that, since it's not Ohio State or Michigan involved, this is the first time since 1962. 1962 was the last time we have a top 5 matchup that doesn't include Ohio State and or Michigan. I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, back in 2006, the game of the century, it was number 1 Ohio State versus number 2 Michigan. So those teams have definitely matched up during the regular season as top 5 opponents, but this hardly ever happens. And the last time we have a top 5 matchup that didn't involve Ohio State in the regular season, 1997 was the last time that happened. So this is monumental. It is history that we're going to witness at Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City on Saturday. So stand by. Definitely going to talk more about this game here in a little bit. So that is my key matchups for this week. Great football. Hope you're hungry. You might need a doggy bag, a to-go bag for your main course because you better come hungry. There's going to be plenty to devour, and I cannot wait for week 6. Cannot wait. Now it's time for me. Actually, I've got one. Here we go. My next topic. Got a little discombobulated there. Like I said, I never claimed to be smart, or good looking. I mean, hell, I apologize to my wife every morning for that. But anyway, now it's time for me to unveil my updated Power 5 conference rankings entering week 6, the main course. And from last week, there is absolutely zero movement. The order has stayed the same, but the gap has either tightened or maybe expanded among certain conferences. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm trying to do a different approach today. I'm going to go ahead and list them 1 through 5 and then break them down why I believe that way. And if you've been watching my previous review shows, I always like to have a little fun and use a theme. And because I am such a huge fan of pop culture, I'm going to choose to go in between music and movies. Last week, my theme revolved around titles of Prince songs. So this week, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go the movie track, and they're going to revolve around Steven Spielberg movies. So stay tuned, but let me go ahead and give you my top 5 in order for my conference power rankings. Sitting on top, number 1 is the SEC, followed by number 2, the Big Ten, number 3, the Big 12, number 4, the Pac-12, and then that will lead at the very end, trailing, number 5 is the ACC. So now let me break down why I believe they're here and what movie they would represent. The SEC, absolutely right now, is the most feared conference right now, both on land and sea. They currently have 7 teams ranked in the AP poll, most among Power 5 conferences, and they occupy the number 1 and 2 slot, both in the AP poll and in my team power rankings. But that being said, I mean, a lot of these teams are ranked outside of the top 10. Actually, they only have 2 that are in the top 10, being Alabama, Georgia. But in order to catch them, the other 4 power conferences, to catch and leap ahead of the SEC, you're going to need a bigger boat. That's right, the SEC is absolutely Jaws. And until somebody gets that bigger boat, someone gets a stronger cage for Matt Hooper, they are not going to be leapfrogged until we have more chaos. But I will say this, if Georgia or Alabama were to take it here, take a tough loss during the regular season, I absolutely could see the number 2 conference, the Big Ten, close the gap, because I actually believe it is closing week by week. So the Big Ten. And the SEC right now has 4 teams that are undefeated. The Big Ten has the most with 5. But we know that number is going to dwindle at least by 1 since Penn State and Iowa square off this week. So the Big Ten, and this right now, like the Big Ten of old, prior to the recent domination by Ohio State, other teams could and did win the Big Ten. A lot of the times it would be Michigan. 2015, it was Michigan State. Before that, Wisconsin had their run of Big Ten titles. Iowa had a couple in there. Purdue did with a quarterback named Drew Brees. Maybe you heard of him. And then who can forget 1995, I believe, the Northwestern Cinderella year with Darnell Autry. So throughout history, the Big Ten does have teams that step up and win the conference title other than Ohio State. So this is like the regeneration, the recreation, reincarnation, the reinvention of the Big Ten Conference. We have now been put back on the map. We have now been introduced to the current college football landscape, brought back from the dead from centuries, decades past. So we are absolutely Jurassic Park is who the Big Ten is. And we are coming because the SEC, life always finds a way. And the gap between these two isn't as big as what a lot of people believe it is. Yes, the SEC has 7 teams ranked. The Big Ten has 5. But all 5 of their teams that are ranked are undefeated and are in the top 11 in the AP poll. So right there, you don't have to be a brainiac, a math genius, thank you, to understand that the average is better in favor of the Big Ten. So the SEC, you're not pulling away. And I'm tired of people believing that, saying that. You are not. The Big Ten is right there. Right there. So, and let's see. So, we'll see it once again. Let's see what can happen with the Big Ten. So the next, number 3 on my conference power rankings, as I stated, is still the Big 12. Now, can these teams within the conference continue to escape week by week and live to play another day? We've seen Oklahoma skate by week after week after week. Now they've got a game Texas squad in the Red River rivalry. Texas took it right here and then some against Arkansas earlier in the year when Arkansas rushed for 7 yards a clip on them. Oklahoma State is surprisingly undefeated. They do have an off week. They're going to probably have something to say. But also Iowa State. Don't forget about the Cyclones. Iowa State and Baylor are sitting there with just 1 loss in conference. So this is still completely up for grabs. So can they continue to escape week by week? Can they escape the snake pit of conference competition? Can they conquer the SEC and Big Ten airfield? Can they effectively interfere and take control of the convoy of other teams from other conferences on the road to the college football playoff? Can they steal a bid from the lost ruins of the sacred playoff temple? So the Big 12, you are Raiders of the Lost Ark. And by the way, one of my top 5 movies of all time, if you must know. So now you do know. Number 4 is the Pac-12. In the Pac-12, yikes, oy, or oh, like some of my New Jerseyans would say out there watching. The Pac-12. Is there an ongoing conspiracy keeping the Pac-12 from involvement in the college football playoff? Remember, this team early in the season captured our hearts and our minds. The big UCLA win opening week over LSU, Oregon going to the Horseshoe, winning in Columbus against Ohio State. This conference was riding high on cloud 9. They were number 2 during my initial conference power rankings segment, and I completely bought into them. But now here they are. They've come crashing down and then some. They no longer have any teams that are undefeated. Oregon got shocked on the road last week at Stanford. So here they are now in the number 4 spot. and they are continue to fall a little bit behind. But Oregon is still absolutely in the playoff conversation. If they win out, and let's say they win out and they end up facing a one-loss Arizona State squad from the Pac-12 South, being their only loss at BYU. If they're there, a 12-1 Oregon squad, they're going to be right there. They still absolutely are in the discussion, but they're going to need a little bit of help. But is there a conspiracy keeping the Pac-12 out of playoff contention? We hear that year after year. The Pac-12 gets left out. Once again, another down year. They're awful. They're bad. Just play at the non-Power 5 ranks. They have sent only 2 teams ever to the playoff, and they haven't had anyone represent them since 2017, and that was Washington. So that's the last time they were in the playoffs. Can they navigate, conquer, and expose this conspiracy and cover up by the playoff football powers that be? Can they summit the playoff mountain, much like Devil's Tower, and then stand as a chosen few, face to face in front of the playoff committee, and then be hand-selected to proceed to the playoffs? So you are close encounters of the third kind. Good stuff. Now, finally, the 5th spot is the ACC. They have been living the high life for the longest time due to Clemson's success. They were part of an elite class. You could pencil in the ACC being represented in the playoff because of Clemson. But this year, there were high expectations for many teams. Clemson entered the season ranked number 3. North Carolina entered the season ranked number 10. Miami was number 14. And guess what? All 3 of those are no longer ranked. The highest ranked team in the ACC is Wake Forest at number 19. Who would have guessed that? So there you are, way in the back. Once upon a time, you were the in crowd, and now you had nothing to worry about at those times. When you were living the high life, you had nothing to worry about. The rich got richer, but then this season, it has smashed the status quo, sending the ACC back to the squalor, from riches to rags, living a life of destitute, and only dreaming and hoping to get out of the gutter, forcing them to either get busy living by merely surviving, or get busy dying. Eventually, and they are right now, so not eventually, they are prisoners of the rest of the landscape. So much like Jim, they are all alone and left to fend for themselves. They are the Empire of the Sun. So there you have it, my updated conference power rankings, brought to you there by Steven Spielberg Movies. I hope you enjoyed that. So tune in next week for my Week 7 preview, and I'll give you my updated conference power rankings at that time. So now let me give you a little bit of insight on my initial analysis about our black and gold squads, their games this weekend. And we have one huge one, but I'm going to start with the MIZZOU, the Missouri Tigers. It's homecoming weekend, I believe, in Columbia this weekend. And the opponent that comes calling is the North Texas Mean Green. And all I'm going to say about this game, Missouri, you got to have it. You got to have this game. If they lose this game, I might even stop mentioning them during this whole blog. I mean, this whole vlog could simply just focus on black and gold of Iowa. We all know what their issues have been this season. They can't stop the running attack. Last week, Tennessee put up 450 yards rushing alone against them, en route to a 62-burger on the scoreboard. Missouri, you just got to win this game. And I said earlier this week's show, during the Week 5 review, I said it's not a stretch to say that this team may not win a conference game, but they may not win another game the rest of the season with how inept their defense is. That is why it is pivotal. They have to have this game. That'll give them their 3rd victory on the season. Can they pick up 3 more to get to bowl eligibility? Only time will tell. but they've got to have this game. I mean, if they don't, they have themselves to blame. And hopefully, if they can limit North Texas to 250 yards rushing, maybe 225, and if they don't turn the ball over, they'll win. But if they give up 225 or more, have, a handful of turnovers, it's going to be a ball game. The Mean Green will have a fighter's chance, but hopefully it'll be well out of hand. Mizzou, you should get the victory. Onward, victory, go Mizzou. Now the Iowa game. Wow, I could spend a whole episode just talking about this matchup. I mean, what a great matchup we're going to be able to witness this Saturday, 3 o'clock in Kinnick Stadium. Number 4, Penn State. Number 3, Iowa. And this is easily the biggest game since going back to 1985, when number 1, Iowa played and defeated number 2, Michigan. That was the magical season of 1985. Iowa had the Heisman runner-up in quarterback Chuck Long. This is a huge game. I mean, I've already shown you, when's the last time we had a game, a top 5 game like this that didn't involve Ohio State and Michigan? It's been a long time. And these are two teams that really mirror each other. I expect a low-scoring game. I'm saying right now, 23 points wins the game, I think, very easily. I don't know what the over-under is, but if it's 40 points, 45 or more, I would say take the bet, take the under, because I don't see this being a blowout. I think it's going to be a good old-fashioned rock fight, one in the trenches. Both teams want to play this way, and they both have had their deficiencies, on offense especially. Iowa's issues have been their offensive line. They did look a little bit better last Friday against Maryland. And Penn State really hasn't been able to run the ball. They have got zero traction so far with their rushing attack. So, and that really plays well into Iowa's hands. Because this is how you beat Iowa. You stack the box on defense. You make Spencer Petras try to pass to beat you. But when you're on offense facing Iowa's defense, you need to be able to pass the ball when you want to, not when you have to. If you get down big and the Iowa defense knows, hey, they're going to pass, they're down big, it's late in the game, we've made them one-dimensional, then the Iowa defense is going to tee off. Then they can drop those guys back. That's like, at that point, Iowa goes on offense, okay? They have, 12 interceptions already through 5 games. That is incredible. I mean, their defensive backfield, their back 7 of Iowa's is, to me, I think, the best defensive backfield in the country. The Georgia front 7, their line and their linebackers is hands down the best front 7, period. And there's a wide margin in between that. But the Iowa linebackers are also very solid, but their defensive backfield is legit. And I think the best one in the country. So that is how Penn State can maybe beat Iowa. Pass when you want to, not when you have to, because that absolutely plays into the hands of Iowa. And Iowa, to beat Penn State, offense just be average. Average is good. Average is definitely not bad. Move the chains, pick up some points, don't turn the ball over. Spencer Petras, don't take any bad sacks that take you out of field goal range or put you way behind the chains. The chains, just be smart. If they do that, I definitely expect Iowa can win, and they should win. It's at home as well. The crowd is going to be absolutely electric. It's going to be lit, off the hook, off the chain, however you want to word it, how the cool kids speak these days. So this is going to be an awesome matchup, and this is good on good. I mean, good defense, good head coaches who have good track histories, have been highly successful at their programs. But the defense, the X factor, it could be, I think it's definitely going to be home field advantage. They'll be loud, but special teams. And Iowa's special teams, they have a top 5 unit in the nation. Caleb Shudik, their kicker, absolutely money from 35 yards in. They have one of the best punters in Tory Taylor, the punter from Down Under. I think he's averaging 47 yards a kick right now, which is insane. And they got my guy, Charlie Jones, who absolutely is the best Iowa punt returner since my boy right here, Tim Dwight. He's like Tim Dwight 2.0. I love Charlie Jones. And he's proven to be a dynamic wide receiver too. So the edge does go to Iowa, but it comes down to how is the ball going to bounce? You know, it comes down to execution, preparation, who plays cleaner. That is going to be the deciding factor. And this is also, this team last year, these teams aren't much different. These teams met last year in Happy Valley at Penn State. Granted, totally different circumstances. No fans. Home field advantage was pretty much negated. Iowa was ranked. Penn State was not. They were in the midst of a long losing streak at that time. And yes, some pieces from each team are gone. Iowa, a lot of their pieces on the defensive line is gone, and some of their wide receivers. But this is primarily the exact same Iowa squad. And Penn State, their backup quarterback, who actually started the game last year at Iowa, has since transferred to Kentucky, lighting it up down there for the Wildcats. And they've lost a couple of playmakers, but these are primarily the same teams we saw last year, and it was no contest. Iowa took care of business on the road. But Penn State, I believe, has won the last 3 trips to Kinnick. So we'll see what plays out. And the thing I love about this game is from an Iowa perspective, even from a Penn State perspective, whoever wins this game, from here out the rest of the season is going to remain in the playoff conversation and in playoff contention, no matter what happens. This is the staying power game. This is the main course. Let's eat. For example, let's say Iowa wins. And let's say 3 weeks from now, I think they travel to Madison. And yes, Wisconsin is down. Their offense is broken. Graham Mertz is a turnover machine. But I think a lot of it is falling on their offensive line, which, when's the last time you could say they're underperforming? They're at Wisconsin. But, yeah, so I see a great matchup. But let's say Iowa wins, but they lose at Madison. Yeah, it's a tough loss, but they don't drop out of the top 10. They drop some spots, but then after that, they have 4 games remaining prior to playing potentially in the Big Ten title game. You play your way back in. So no matter what, the winner of this game is absolutely going to be in the conversation until the very end, until it's unveiled who the playoff contenders are and the 2 that are on the outside looking in. So, big time. And absolutely, there'll be a big time review on this game next week, how it all plays out. So now let's move into my last topic. But before I unveil my picks, I'm going to give you some of my off-the-radar games. Quickly, Wisconsin travels to Illinois. Wisconsin's down. Graham Mertz may not play. Their best weapon from receiving, tight end Jake Ferguson, may not play. It's the Bielema Bowl. Brett Bielema faces his old team for the first time. It's in Illinois. Wisconsin's limping, and the last time Wisconsin came to Illinois, if you recall, we had one of the biggest upsets ever in the spread era in the Big Ten. Can they make it 2 in a row in Champaign over Wisconsin? Tune in to find out. East Carolina travels to UCF. UCF normally has been the biggest competition for Cincinnati. That's why this is a big game. And they host Cincinnati next week. Number 24, SMU travels to Navy. Navy finally joined the group of winning teams. They notched their first victory last week over, over UCF. I lost that game in our picks. So can SMU keep this up, stay undefeated? We'll have to wait and see. Or will they fall prelude and victim to that triple option by Navy? And last off-the-radar game is the Roadrunners. UTSA out of Conference USA. Still undefeated. Travel to Western Kentucky. But I'm putting them on upset alert. If you haven't seen this Western Kentucky quarterback, Bailey Zappi, he is an absolute stud. They're 1-3, I get it, but they have losses against Michigan State, and they also, Army as well, that only has one loss. And they played somebody else good as well. I have to get back to that. But they have played stiff competition, has West. Oh, and Indiana. Indiana too. So they're 1-3, but Bailey Zappi, his ratio is 16-2. 16 touchdowns to 2 picks. I think Western Kentucky knocks them off, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, Admiral Akbar, you're up. It's time for this week's Trap. It's a trap. The trap games for week 6. New Mexico travels to number 25 San Diego State. Next week, San Diego State travels to the Spartans of San Jose State, the defending Mountain West champions from last season. Maybe they'll be looking ahead slightly for that matchup. Boise State travels to number 10 BYU. BYU next week travels to Baylor, who has one loss. Maybe they're looking ahead to another potential statement victory over a Power 5 team. Don't be looking ahead, BYU. Florida State travels to North Carolina. You're probably thinking, why the hell is this game? Because next week, North Carolina hosts Miami, and that still is the spotlight game in the ACC Coastal Division. So maybe North Carolina is looking ahead. And the last trap game, the trap, is Stanford travels to number 22 Arizona State. Arizona State coming off that big win over the weekend at UCLA. They travel next week to Utah, which that could be a game to determine the Pac-12 South winner. So maybe the Sun Devils are looking ahead at home to the Utes, the 2 Utes. So we'll have to wait and see. Now, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourselves for the greatest spectacle in all of college football. It is our Pick'em segment. Each and every week, I pick 15 games. Included in that, every week we'll pick the games involving our Missouri Tigers and our Iowa Hawkeyes, an Academy game of the week featuring Navy, Army, or Air Force, the non-Power 5 Spotlight game of the week, an FCS Spotlight game of the week, and the Spotlight game of the week overall. Last week was not a good week for your boy Blair here. Actually needed to ask forgiveness from the football gods. Forgive me of my sins, my trespasses, as our guest picker, Brad, entered Thunderdome against Charlie and myself, took us both down, a upset of monumental proportions. So I need to come back and come back hard this week. And joining us is my friend Caleb. He's been a friend for many a year, a loyal subscriber and viewer of the Black and Gold, Touchdown Black and Gold vlog from the get-go. So he definitely had a little bit of fun trolling myself and Charlie this week. So let's go ahead and get into it. I got to get off the schneid, back on the wagon. So without further ado, here come the picks for week 6. Enjoy the main course. Our first game on tap. Utah travels to USC. Once again, the Pac-12 South in a huge toss-up. It's like a juggling act. Who's going to win it? 4 teams potentially could take the crown. Let's see how Caleb thinks this game is going to play out. USC's made the coaching change. Utah, Charlie Brewer, the starting quarterback who started the season, has now left the program. So they turn it over to a backup QB. There's so many unknowns in the Pac-12 South, and especially with this game. But for this first game, Caleb likes USC. Charlie also likes USC to rebound. Me, I also like USC as well. I think just the speed, the athleticism, and I think this is absolutely a get-right game for USC. They got embarrassed last week in the Coliseum by the Beavers of Oregon State, the first win by Oregon State in LA since 1960. So we all like USC to get it done. Next game, number 2 Georgia travels to number 18 Auburn, a game I touched on during our key matchup segment. Caleb says, home field isn't going to be enough for Auburn. He likes Georgia. Charlie also likes Georgia. I think this Georgia team absolutely is only improving week by week, which is scary. Their starting quarterback, Heisman potential finalist JT Daniels, did not play last week, had no problem blanking Arkansas. He may not play this week. I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter. Georgia wins big. We all like Georgia in this matchup. Next game, number 14 Notre Dame at Virginia Tech, another one of my key matchups. Caleb says Virginia Tech wins a sloppy contest in Blacksburg. So he likes Virginia Tech off the bye. Notre Dame comes in limping a little bit, maybe humbled slightly after the home loss to Cincinnati. Charlie, he likes Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, this is a game where they look inward, play like a champion today, do it for Newt Rockne. We're going to get him on the run. We're going to go, 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 go. We're not going to stop till we get over that goal line. What do you say, man? Hey! I like Notre Dame to rebound, so we have our first disagreement of the segment. We'll see how it plays out. Next game, number 19, Wake Forest at Syracuse. The highest ranked team out of the ACC, Wake Forest, undefeated, off to a great start. Let's see if Caleb thinks they're going to be upset. For this game, Wake gets it done in the Dome against the Orange, so he does not like the Orange to rise up. Neither does Charlie. He likes Wake Forest as well, and so do I. I was thinking about taking the Orange in this game, but I think Wake is just better. Coach Dave Clawson, the best coach you've never heard anything about. I think Wake gets it done in a squeaker. Good game, but we all like Wake. Now, number 5, the fifth game, number 6, Oklahoma, number 21, Texas, the Red River rivalry. How is this game going to play out? Caleb says, yet again, Oklahoma skates by in a close game. He likes the Sooners to do enough on offense and enough on defense. Charlie also likes Oklahoma. I'm going with offense. I'm going with Texas. Offense is not their problem. Last year, they averaged over 40 points a game. They're off to an incredible start this year. I think defense will do just enough. Bijan Robinson is going to rush for 200-plus yards. Texas gets it done. Hook 'em horns. So we have another disagreement. Next game up, Oregon State. The Beavers travel to the Cougars of Washington State. This is a huge game to remain in the Pac-12 North race. Oregon State is right there. How does Caleb see this game going? He likes Oregon State to win on the road. Good pick. Charlie also likes Oregon State. I am rooting for Oregon State. I love the Pac-12 North to come down to the last game of the year, the Civil War rivalry game, Oregon State. But this week, Washington State gets their starting quarterback who was knocked out during the USC game. I like Washington State at home to pull the upset. Next game up in the Big 12. West Virginia travels to Baylor. Caleb likes West Virginia, good team. Charlie, he likes Baylor. And I also like Baylor at home. I think they rebound. I love their quarterback, a real playmaker. I think Baylor is going to be in the Big 12 race until the end. So another disagreement. I love this. Next game up, number 11, Michigan State travels to Rutgers, the Scarlet Knights. Definitely a much improved Rutgers squad. Can they knock Michigan State off the horse of the undefeateds? Let's find out. Caleb likes Michigan State. Go Spartans, he says. Charlie, he also likes Michigan State. I am totally on the Greg Schiano train. I like Rutgers at home to pull the upset. Go Scarlet Knights. Another disagreement. I love it. Bring it on. This is great. Next game up in the SEC. Number 13 Arkansas at number 17 Ole Miss. One of my key matchup games. Caleb likes Ole Miss in this game. So does Charlie. I think Arkansas is so beat up after back-to-back games against Texas A&M and Georgia. Just physical games, gotten beat up. I think they will be able to move the ball effectively against Ole Miss. I think they probably have the better defense overall, but I think Ole Miss, especially at home, has way too much firepower, outscores them. I like Ole Miss. We're all in agreement. Ole Miss gets it done. Next game up, a game that you did not expect to hear me bring up, but I've got to do it. UConn travels to UMass, and you're thinking, why the hell waste a pick on this? I've got to do it. This is this year's edition of the Stupor Bowl, the bottom 10. These teams come in a combined 0 for 11. Somebody's going to pick up a victory, get out of the cellar. Let's see what Caleb thinks. He likes the Huskies of UConn. So does Charlie. Both of these teams have been battle-tested. UConn has come so close, almost defeated Wyoming, who's currently undefeated. Last week, almost beat Vanderbilt. It was a Vanderbilt victory, walk-off field goal style. I also like UConn. We all like the Huskies. Now we get into our spotlight games. For our first black and gold of Missouri, North Texas travels to Missouri. It's homecoming. What does Caleb say? A little bit of a troll here as well. He likes Missouri. This team should be in the Big Ten because they can't hang in the SEC. Ouch. Ow, baby. But then again, some other folks would say that as well. Or maybe you should have stayed in the Big 12. So there is maybe some sort of justification for that. I'll let you discuss that among yourselves. I like Missouri in the SEC. I like you. So we'll keep it there. Caleb likes Missouri. I like Missouri, and so does Charlie in Missouri because you have to win. And if you lose, I think you're going to be kicked off of this vlog. Out. Pack your things, hit the showers. Next spotlight game is our Academy spotlight game. The aforementioned undefeated Wyoming Cowboys travel to the Air Force Academy. High altitude game, but not a factor because if I recall, something that you may not be aware of, but the stadium that sits at the highest elevation in America is Wyoming. They're in Laramie, Wyoming. I like Wyoming to stay undefeated. So does Caleb. So does Charlie. We all like the Cowboys. You know, I wish I could salute the military and take them. Just can't do it. Next game is our non-Power 5 matchup of the week. Huge game, especially in the MAC West Division. NIU, the Huskies, travel to Toledo. So whoever wins this game absolutely is in the driver's seat to win the division. Both of these teams have good victories this season. How does Caleb see this game playing out? He likes the Rockets of Toledo at home. Charlie also likes Toledo. I'm a torn man. I love DeKalb. I've been there several times. Shout out to Burritoville. Brett, if you're watching, you know what I'm talking about. That's a topic discussion for another vlog. Don't need to get into that. But I'm also taking Toledo. I think they've got too much. We all like the Rockets of Toledo at home. Next game is our FCS Spotlight Game of the Week. We have a top 12 matchup. Villanova travels to James Madison. Caleb, he likes, oh, look at this, in an upset. Caleb does like Johnny Five and Nova. I like James Madison. So does Charlie. So we have another disagreement. Now the Spotlight Game of the year, which I forgot to mention, I'll say it now quickly. This might be not just the biggest game of the year for Penn State and Iowa. This could be the biggest game in the Big Ten all season and could end up being one of the biggest conference games in America for every conference this season. So let's see what we got picked for the Spotlight Game. Number 4, Penn State at number 3, Iowa. Caleb, he says, most believe Penn State will win this game. That's kind of the national narrative, and I do agree with him. Not everybody, but when you watch pundits, experts, analysts, shows, you read articles, most people are picking Penn State, which that has really favored Iowa very well this season. Because week 1, the national narrative seemed to be more about Indiana, not really about Iowa. And the same thing week 2 with the game at Iowa State. Game day was there. It was Iowa State's moment. And it didn't bother Iowa at all. So he says the national narrative is to take Penn State. It's going to be a true test. but Kinnick Stadium gives the ultimate advantage to the home team. If it was in State College, he said he would take Penn State, but since it's in Iowa City, he's going with Iowa in a true battle and an instant classic. I love that. Charlie, he also likes our Hawkeyes to win. And me, you know who the hell I'm picking? Not just because I am a fan, but I absolutely believe that Iowa's a better team. I rolled it out for you. Their defense is slightly ahead of Penn State's. Better special teams. At home. This is their moment. We all like Iowa. Go Hawks. Woo! Woo! Ric Flair style. Or Charlotte Flair style if you prefer. But that's it. That's our episode for today. That's been our Week 6 preview show. I appreciate you being here with me, your viewership. Please feel free. Let me know how I'm doing. Leave your comments. Leave any questions or concerns. I'll do whatever I can to bring them up on air. In the meantime, please help spread the word. Like, share, subscribe. Get it out there. Thank you very much for being with me. It's a pleasure as always. This is all not possible without you, the Black and Gold family, friends, family. You all are. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the main course, the football on Week 6. This is it. This is history, folks. Indulge, enjoy, and I'll see you next week. Thanks for being here with me on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. We'll see you soon. Bye.